So, as there's much in talk of crypto investing more these days, and also it's gained popularity in the recent years. For most of the time,
Mhm.
its prices kept falling, and which was definitely the investing period. But then it's starting to give amazing returns in the current scenario. So, what is your take on this? Like, and also on the point that whenever there is a tweet from large scale investors like Elon Musk ने अभी tweet किया था, so Dogecoin और Shibu skyrocket
Mhm.
हो गया. So is there something relevant to this?
About the Shiba Inu and Dogecoin thing, so there's a quote or a saying in the investment world which goes by that if an investment sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. So what this basically means that if you come across an investment option or let's say an investment scheme or a cryptocurrency in this case that is sounding too good to be true, that this will give you 100x returns in 1 year, then it probably is. It probably is too good to be true. And I think this is very very applicable to cryptocurrencies also, especially the meme coins or the shit coins that are going around in the market. Because when you hear about that Shiba Inu gave 1000 returns in 10x, sorry, 100x or 1000x returns in 10 days, and these things sound too good to be true, and you think that this kind of return or these kind of returns would continue to go on for long period also, then it probably is too good to be true. It's not going to happen like that. And I think specifically when it comes to all these shit coins or crypto or meme coins, I think a lot of it is based on, as you said, the marketing or the hype that comes from all these tweets or any social media sharing or presence created by any, let's say, famous people or anything like that. Or a lot of it goes by the hype created by the returns given also. Like in case of Shiba Inu, there was not any specific person who started, any specific famous person who started promoting a lot. It just started getting all that hype with the kind of returns that it was getting. Obviously after that a lot of famous people also jumped in and they also started promoting Shiba Inu. But and this is a very huge problem with cryptocurrency, because first of all cryptocurrencies are very, the whole space, the whole industry of cryptocurrency is very young right now. Like it's only 8 years old, whereas I think the stock market or the equities market is more than 300 400 years old, if I'm correct. And cryptocurrencies has been around only for 8 years. And
Yeah.
because it is so young, first of all it is not regulated, it is completely unregulated. Anyone can come up with a cryptocurrency. If you give me 13 minutes, I can come up with a new cryptocurrency and I can start circulating it. And I think it's because of, and finally the get rich quick mentality or the get rich quick desire that is associated with investing in cryptocurrency. I think all these things are driving the huge craze or driving the hype in the market, that cryptocurrencies are the next big. Definitely, cryptocurrencies are going to be a big thing, but I'm talking about cryptocurrency as an industry, cryptocurrencies or blockchain technology or crypto assets in the future. Right now, the kind of prices or the kind of values that we are seeing for a lot of cryptocurrencies, I think they are insane. I think they are in a complete bubble from a value point of view. I'm not talking about the underlying technology. There's a difference. So there's a difference between the value bubble and the underlying technology bubble or the utility bubble. So let's say during the dot-com bubble, the Amazon stock, I think it crashed from $107 to $7. So at that time, Amazon stock was in a value bubble. It was highly overpriced, but that doesn't mean that the Amazon company itself was a bubble, that the company would collapse or the company would go down. I think we are seeing the similar case with the cryptocurrency industry right now, that a lot of cryptocurrencies are insanely valued. They are in a value market price bubble in that sense, but that doesn't mean that the underlying technology or the crypto assets in general will go down only from a use case point of view. And in case of cryptocurrencies, when it comes to investing in cryptocurrencies, obviously to diversify your portfolio, it is, I think, a good idea to have some exposure to cryptocurrencies also. But in cryptocurrency, there is a very famous saying that invest only what you can afford to lose. So once you have invested in cryptocurrency, assume that you have already lost that money. You have to invest with that mentality, and you have to invest with that mentality, because cryptocurrencies are very risky. And if you put a lot of amount into cryptocurrency, and in most cases a lot of people lose their money in cryptocurrencies. Obviously we hear all these success stories, but the thing is that our attention is always biased towards the success stories. There are always these stories like 1000x returns in 10 days. but there are also stories of a cryptocurrency going down to zero in a single minute if we talk about the Squid Game crypto. But obviously
Yeah.
we are as humans biased towards the positive returns, the positive news. And obviously that doesn't, I'm not saying that don't invest in cryptocurrency, ye bahut biased hai, this is the worst thing that can happen, or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that cryptocurrencies are very risky, very unregulated. No one knows what will happen. That's why have a kind of exposure to cryptocurrencies in your portfolio, which will not drastically, or which will have a very negligible or a very minimal impact in case the cryptocurrencies, or in case your crypto investments go down. So that is why, not a financial advice, but a lot of people say that you should have like 1 to 2% exposure to cryptocurrency. So if you have invested 100 rupees in total in everything, then 1 to 2 rupees can be in cryptocurrencies. And depending on your risk appetite or your belief in the cryptocurrencies, maybe it can go up to 5% in, and some people have invested up to 10% also in cryptocurrencies. So it depends. But once again, invest only what you can afford to lose. If you can't afford to lose 1 lakh rupees, if you need that money, don't invest that 1 lakh rupee in cryptocurrency. Invest if you can still play around with, say, with let's say 1,000 2,000 rupees. Even if that 2,000 rupees go down, it won't impact your life. Then maybe 2,000 rupees can be invested in cryptocurrencies, and that too in good top cryptocurrencies. When I'm talking about invest that money in one, invest that 1 to 2% amount in cryptocurrencies, by that I mean top good cryptocurrencies, not Shiba Inu, Dogecoin, etc., or any other
Yeah.
cryptocurrencies. Invest in the top 5 to 10 cryptocurrencies which have a lot of credibility attached to it, which have a lot of credible people backing the cryptocurrency, a good team. Or if you don't know how to analyze all these things, just invest in the top 5 cryptocurrencies by market cap. Not a financial advice, but this is like, I'm just saying that if you're not very thorough with the knowledge of cryptocurrencies and which is a good currency or which is not. Even I'm not very thorough with cryptocurrencies, to be honest. I don't get into oh, this is having this trading pattern or this will go up or anything like that. Even I have that strategy that I have read a lot about different cryptocurrencies, and I have identified 5 cryptocurrencies, and all these 5 cryptocurrencies are in the top 10 cryptocurrencies by market cap only. So even
Yeah.
I am not investing in those smaller coins right now, because I know how risky and how unregulated and how unpredictable they are. So just invest what you can afford to lose and stick to top good big cryptocurrencies only, is what I will
Staying
suggest.
staying in top 5 to 10% can be considered to be safe because they are always well regulated, even
Yeah,
though it's very unpredictable.
but the
Still,
thing is that Dogecoin and Shiba Inu were also once a part of the top 10 cryptocurrencies. So
yeah,
you should still look after that also, that it shouldn't be a meme coin or something without any backing or anything.
yeah. And irrespective of that, we can never solely rely on cryptos. So, moving on to the last segment of our podcast, what is your take in handling multiple activities? As you're handling your job as well, as this huge community is also there of 85K people simultaneously. Also, from the content creation perspective, what are the things that you incorporate to make the process simpler and more aesthetic?
First of all, I'll say that I have always been a sort of more workaholic person. Like I always like keeping myself occupied and busy with things I love. So obviously I have my 9 to 5 or sort of 10 to 6 job that I have to attend to. And after 6 p.m., I have a lot of time. I sleep around 1 to 2 a.m. So I have those 7, 8 hours every day. And that's why, and I am now once again, I'm not saying that everyone who has 7, 8 hours should start their side hustle. Obviously having a side hustle or some activity like this is a good idea, but it also depends on your, on the type of person or the type of personality you have. Are you even going to like it? Are you going to stay happy with it? I personally like keeping myself occupied with things I love, and having this YouTube channel, reading about finance and all, is something that I actually like, and I actually like devoting my time to all these things. So like even right now, recording this podcast or making my own video or reading financial books or recording or creating videos or doing research for my videos, whenever I devote my time, that is the time or that is the kind of activity which I actually like, and I like doing that. So that is why in my case this has been pretty easy for me, because this is not some extra work or burden जो मेरे को उठाना पड़ रहा है.
Yeah,
So and I had this thing कि every week I have to post one video, and posting one video every week is not a huge task. कि every day you have to devote 5-6 hours to the YouTube channel. Obviously, if you're going to post every day or every other day, then that will be a huge task. You have to devote, I think, 5-6 hours every day. But posting one video every week is a good consistency, at least for someone who started out only 10 months ago. This is not a big channel right now, so I think that is a good consistency. In my opinion, 1 week per video, and it is not a very tedious task. Obviously, starting with, there are a few hurdles. You have to learn a lot of things. You have to learn how to make videos on YouTube, how to record videos, how to edit them. But after a while, बहुत easy and streamline हो जाता है process, is what I will say.
Yeah, you get used to it.
And what was the next question?
Yeah. So how do you make your content? How do you make it more simpler and aesthetic?
So I have this thing that so what a lot of content creators do is they already plan their content before, and which is a very good thing to do. This is something which I don't do, and this is not a good thing. It's not that, oh, I'm very proud of it, I don't do this. Obviously, if you are making content, you should have plan. This day I will post about this topic, this week I will post about this topic, etc. But right now I don't have that thing, because in my case it's mostly mera just every so this is there that I have to post once every week. This is there, एक video post हो गया हफ्ते. And I have this thing कि I devote 1 day or 2 days towards researching for a video. Like once I finalize a topic, I devote 1 to 2 days towards doing my end of research, reading different articles or reports about them, watching other YouTube videos which are relevant to that topic, or if there is any book which I have or any section in a book in which I read about that topic, doing my end of research. Then one day, and so this is both research and scripting. Scripting is basically क्या क्या cover करना है. Obviously, once you have read everything, हर चीज तो नहीं बता सकते आप एक 10 मिनट की वीडियो में. Then filtering out what has to be conveyed and what has to be kept aside for now. Then 1 day goes toward recording the video. It's, I think, 1 to 1.5 hour job. Recording मतलब कैमरा के सामने बैठ के now you are speaking out things and recording. And then 1 day I devote towards editing my videos. A lot of times this recording and editing are done on the same day only, depending on मेरे पास कितना time है उस दिन, how much time is it going to take. But this is the kind of flow that I follow. And then on the day I have to post the video, I make the thumbnail. So everything is done by me only. And it might seem that everything is very streamlined and everything is a very process oriented. Everything is done in a very process oriented way. But I'll be very honest, this is how I do. I just do my own research. Then I take out time to record the video. Then I myself make the thumbnails a few hours before posting the video. And then I post the video, and then I just look at the response. Then I also spend a lot of time on the YouTube analytics, seeing how the people are responding, which video has a good engagement, which thumbnail has a good click-through rate, which part of the videos are people more engaged in, are they more watching. Then I devote a lot of time reading the comments also, since comments are a direct feedback from the audience, what they have to say about the video, whether they are liking it or not, if they have any feedback, or if they have any video topics suggestions. Also, a lot of my top videos have been topics suggestions that people gave me. My highest viewed video and my second highest viewed video, both these, highest viewed is how to make money as a teenager, and second highest is the best crypto apps in India. And both these topics were suggested by people only, either through my YouTube channel or someone reached out to me on my Instagram or something like that. So I actually go through each and every comment on my channel for my own benefit, to be honest, and also to see how people are responding, if people are loving the content or not.
Yeah, that's how
this is how. Right?
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. Continue.
Yeah. So this is basically how I manage my YouTube channel. Everything X to A to Z is done by me only, and sort of, I'll be just very honest, right now it's in a very unorganized manner, but my plan is that starting 2022, I'll post 2 videos every week. Right now it's 1 video every week. I'll post 2 videos every week. And once I start posting 2 videos every week, it has to be honestly in a very process oriented and in a very streamlined manner. So probably at that time, I'll start having a more proper workflow. Ki is time pe ye, us time pe wo.
Yeah, you'll have to come up with a schedule, because it's very tough planning out all those things. And there's still a lot of job you are involved into. because
Yeah.
even the recording and the editing part might take a while. Doing analysis after your post,
Hmm.
taking interactions, learning from the
Hmm.
feedbacks, it's still a time-consuming process. So it's
Yep. Agreed.
yeah, but it's still very well going and very well planned, very well oriented. The current scenario.
Thank you
So
so much.
yeah. So, what's your take on lifelong learning? As you know, there is always something new that has to be understood, and you must be getting some topic suggestions from in the form of feedback. So, can you suggest 2 3 books to enhance our knowledge on personal finance that you personally refer?
Uh-huh. I think I've answered this question 100 times. Rad gaya mere ko answer. First book that I always recommend is Rich Dad Poor Dad. Always. Rich Dad Poor Dad is the first book. Be whether you want to get started with personal finance or investing or trading, anything, even if you don't want to get started with anything, just read Rich Dad Poor Dad. Since you would want money, right? You want to earn money, you want to increase your money. So, Rich Dad Poor Dad is a book that will completely transform your approach towards money. And once your approach towards money is transformed, automatically your approach towards personal finance will get transformed. And Rich Dad Poor Dad is a very amazing book. Definitely this has to be the first book that you have to read, and you don't have any prerequisites. I didn't have any knowledge before reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you don't even know what finance or money is, just read Rich Dad Poor Dad. So obviously, you have to know what money is. Obviously everyone knows what money is, but what I'm saying is that you don't have to have any prerequisites to read it.
There are not much of
Then after
technical
that,
knowledge.
you don't need any technical knowledge or any knowledge. A basic average human knowledge is all that you need.
That's great if
Then
anybody
after,
can relate to it without having any sort of financial background. If he can relate to it, that's really helpful. Like it's down to earth.
definitely. Yeah. And Rich Dad Poor Dad is so famous for a reason, because everyone can relate to that book and everyone has a lot of things to take away after reading that book. That is why it is so famous at the first place. It's very hyped, but it's not overhyped. It's hyped up, but the hype is worth it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Second book that I usually recommend, it's a little underrated book, a very underhyped book. I'll say this book is Broke Millennial. Now, Broke Millennial came a few years back, and right now the current generation, our generation, Gen Z. So I sort of lie between Gen Z and Millennial. I don't know what exactly am I. So Broke Millennial is a book which anyone who has started with their personal finance journey, or who is about to start, let's say start to earn money in a few months or in 1 to 2 years, or if you are a college student or more. It's not really a book for school students, but obviously reading won't be of any harm. It will only increase your knowledge. But if you are a college student or you have started earning money, Broke Millennial is a very practical and real world oriented personal finance book, is what I will say. It covers a lot of topics. Almost everything in personal finance is covered in Broke Millennial. And the language in which it is written, it's written in English only, but the way in which they have presented all the information, it's very fun to read, very fun, very entertaining, and very insightful. Definitely Broke Millennial is there. Then after that, the third book that I will suggest, if someone is into stock market, if someone wants to learn about stock picking and all. So I have recently started reading Coffee Can Investing also. I am already in love with that book. I haven't read it full till now, आधी ही पढ़ी है, but definitely I can say that if someone is interested in how to pick stocks, Coffee Can Investing is a book which you should read. But before Coffee Can Investing, I think that you should read a few more books about investing in stocks. And one of the books is Beat the Street by Peter Lynch. If you want to learn about stock picking, how to identify good stocks around you, then One Up on Wall Street. Beat the Street is also by Peter Lynch, but I'm talking about One Up on Wall Street. One Up on Wall Street is also amazing. It's a bestseller. I think it's a New York Times bestseller. It's written by Peter Lynch, who is one of the most greatest investors of all time. And definitely that is also a book. Apart from that, you can even read Intelligent Investor if you're into investing in stocks. Intelligent Investor is considered the Bible of investing. The Bible, the and invest and the Intelligent Investor was written by Benjamin Graham, and he was the professor of Warren Buffett, and he's also credited as the father of value investing. So Intelligent Investor is also an amazing book. All these books are over there. I don't know कौन सी दिख रही है.
Yeah.
But yeah, first book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, no doubt. You have to go with that.
And that gives us a proper idea. The series of books that you mentioned, those are really very informative. So, okay, so we like to conclude by this, and it was really fun talking to you. And I hope we'll have this interaction conversations again in the future. It was really informative and fascinating, really. So nice meeting you. Thank you, Aishman, for your time.
Thank you so much, Amey, and thank you so much for inviting me. It was a great opportunity for me also, and looking forward to more collabs in the future.
Yeah, sure.